The NBA is the easiest league to make money on while sports betting. I've made over $13,000 with a 5.5% ROI over the past year and a half betting NBA. Now, there are two different strategies I use, and one is to attack main lines like spread totals and money lines, and the other strategy attacks player props. With mainline betting, I've produced about a 5% ROI long term attacking these main lines. And with the player props, I've actually made about a 10% ROI betting player props in the NBA. The reason the NBA is so easy to make money on is because there are games every single day, and the sports books have thousands of different types of bets they have to cover. So they can't be accurate on all their lines. Something like the NFL, where they only have games on Sunday and a couple sprinkled throughout the week, it's really easy for the sports books to post accurate lines on those games because there's only a couple going on. But when you have 10 NBA games going on at once and so many different markets to bet into, there is value all across the board. So I'm going to show you exactly how I beat mainline spreads and totals to start, and then we'll move on to some of the player props. So there are a few things you need to understand to beat main lines when it comes to NBA betting. Number one is you need to determine if there is a value on the retail books compared to sharp books like Pinnacle, Circa, and Bookmaker. Basically, Pinnacle, Circa, and Bookmaker is what we call sharp books, and their lines are extremely accurate because they take the most action from professional sports bettors and then adjust their lines based on the action that they're receiving. Books like FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, they just limit anyone making money. So their lines aren't nearly as sharp because professional bettors aren't betting into them and adjusting their lines. So if the first thing you need to do is determine whether there is value to one of those sharp books. The second thing you need to understand is timing. Now, this is really important because, like I said, the sharp books take a certain amount of money from professional bettors, and throughout the course of the day, these limits increase. So if a line opens up for NBA bet the night before, the limits on these sharp books might only be a couple $1,000s, but come closer to game time, the limits might be closer to $40,000. It is really easy for professional bettors to move markets when the limits are only around that $1,000, $2,000 range. But once limits start increasing to 10,000 and above, it takes a lot of money to move lines. So if we have a line that moves with $10,000 limits, then we know there is heavy action coming on that side of the line. Now, the reason timing is important, like I said, early in the week, the limits are low around $1,000, $2,000. But as the day goes on, the limits are increased, which means we can trust the odds even more once the limits are increased on the sharp books. The third thing you need to understand is market size. So obviously in the NBA, there are different markets for main line spreads and totals. Let's just use spreads for example. There's first quarter spreads, there's first half spreads, there's full game spreads. You need to understand that when it comes to kind of what we were just talking about earlier, where the limits on the sports book, they'll take $40,000 limits on full game spreads, which means those lines are going to be extremely sharp and accurate. But when it comes to first quarter stuff, they might only be taking a couple $1,000 bets on the first quarter stuff. So understanding that first quarter and first half markets are not going to be as sharp as some of the full markets, that's a big understanding. Same thing with like team totals. It's a smaller market, so you can't trust the sharp books as much. And it's just really important concept to understand. So I'll show you how I actually find sports betting plays using the SharpMoney Discord, which I'm an owner of, and I helped build the algorithm that finds bets. So let's get into it here. All right, I just hopped over to the SharpMoney Discord, and I'm going to be looking for plays in our main bot channel here. And the main bot is the channel that searches for the spreads, totals, and money lines, and it uses books like Circa, Bookmaker, and Pinnacle to find a value or an edge in the market. So let's just look at this one right here that's being flagged. And this is just in the FanDuel channel because this is the one I have pulled up right now. But Golden State Warriors versus the Clippers here. We have first quarter bet, and this is an over 54.5 points at minus 102 odds on FanDuel. So the reason that our bot flagged this as a good play is because you can see here, this pink line is Pinnacle. So earlier in the day, they were priced at minus 105, and they've been priced down by professional bettors down to this minus 112 range. So now that Pinnacle, the sharp book, is priced at minus 112, that was kind of the first step we talked about and the strategy is finding an edge compared to the sharp book. And the Sharp Money Discord does that perfectly. So step number one, done. Timing. So right now, this game starts today at 8:30, and right now it is about noon. So we aren't that close to game time, but it is day of. So when it comes to timing, these markets they have pretty high limits at this point. So the third step is finding the what size market are we dealing with right now? And this is a first quarter total point. So this is a really small market. So my strategy here is, since the limits are most likely very low, I'm not going to be playing first quarter totals unless the value compared to the sharp book is probably over 3%. Now, if this bet was a little bit closer to game time, then I might take this down to about a 1.5% EV. But this is a bet that I would actually pass on because the market is small and we are still 8.5 hours away from game time. So it doesn't check off all three of my boxes here. So let's scroll up a little bit. There's an NFL play. So here's another good one. And this is a perfect example. So we have Trailblazers versus the Pelicans here. This is also a game for today, but this one starts at 6. So now we're only 6 hours away from game time. These markets should be pretty good. We have a first half point spread, minus 118 on FanDuel, and we have Pinnacle priced at minus 140 here. So number one, we have value to Pinnacle, which is one of our sharp books. Number two, talk about timing. We are 6 hours out from this game starting. The injury reports are out. The sharps know what's going on, and the limits are pretty close to full at this point. Limits will go up quite a bit more actually during a few hours out from the game when the injuries are actually finally released, but the limits are much higher than they would be earlier in the day. The third point here is talking about market size. So a first half point spread is actually a pretty good market to bet into. Pinnacle and the other sharp books will take pretty heavy limits on this. So definitely a play I'm taking, especially with this 3.3% EV play. It's a really good take. We check off all the boxes here. Good value to Pinnacle, good timing, and the market is one of the larger markets when it comes to a first half spread. So those are a couple of ones that I would definitely look at. You can easily click the link to bet it if you want to bet this one here. If you click on the link, it'll actually load up your FanDuel account, put the bet right into your slip, and you can bet it right away. So this price is still at minus 118, which is what Discord flagged it at. So it's still good to go. I'm not going to bet it right now because I'd have to sign in, but that's basically the gist of it. And to get access to our main bot, you would have to sign up for our premium subscription, which is $29.99 a month. It's really cheap. One of the cheapest options you're going to find in the market when it comes to finding edges using Bookmaker, Circa, and Pinnacle. If you sign up now, you can get a 7-day free trial. If you cancel before those 7 days, you won't be charged at all. So let's hop over and talk about how we attack player props in the NBA. And like I said, this is my all-time Sharp Money NBA player props. I'm over almost 11% ROI on almost 250 bets. So let me tell you how we attack this market. When betting player props, we have to take a much different approach than we do betting main lines. And the reason we have to take a different approach is because these sharp books, they don't have these crazy high limits on player props. So without that liquidity in their markets, we can't trust their player prop markets nearly as much as their main lines. I've seen a lot of people just assume Pinnacle is sharp on player props and get absolutely smoked. The one thing we have to do here is we have to look at each book as kind of their own. They all originate their own lines, right? So if we look at each book differently and find out who sets the best line, then we can go from there and make adjustments. So over about a year and a half betting thousands of bets into NBA player props, I found out that FanDuel was the only book I had a negative ROI on. I had close to a negative 6% ROI on FanDuel, just betting NBA player props on them. Meanwhile, all the other books like ESPN, Bet, Caesars, MGM, you name it, every other book, I was destroying them betting player props, close to 5, 6, 7% ROIs. So what I figured out when I talked to other sports bettors around the industry, FanDuel, they have extremely sharp lines on NBA player props, and a lot of people were losing to them. So now the way I find value in the player prop market is by using FanDuel as one of the main data points to find value. The other book that I use too is BetOnline, because they do take higher limits on these player prop markets, and they've just like talking around the industry. They are also sharp. So what we do in the Sharp Money Discord is we kind of use a combo of Bet Online and FanDuel to come up with a fair value and then find good plays on the other retail books. So let me hop over to the Discord and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here is one that popped up for MGM here. We have a player prop for over 3.5 assists, -120. If you look at the bottom of the screen, we have this graph here. So this is all of the other books that have this line out. We see this at -120, that brown line, that's MGM right there. We see most of the other books priced in this -140, all the way down to -160, and not even lower. So, like I said, we trust FanDuel and BetOnline the most, so we always put those odds at the bottom. So we have BetOnline -166 and FanDuel -148, and we can grab this at -120 on MGM. This is a play that I would absolutely smash here. Half Kelly is recommending almost 2 units. This is a play that I love. And when you can use BetOnline and FanDuel in a DVIG process and find value, that is how you smash NBA props. So I'll hop over to DraftKings, and here's another play. Over 5.5 rebounds, +124 odds on DraftKings. If you look over here, FanDuel is only offering +104, BetOnline +108, and Caesars -104. We tend to work in a couple other retail books and with this DVIG process with FanDuel and BetOnline. It's not just an equal split. And that bet just cleared. So most likely DraftKings changed their odds. But essentially, that was a great play because it was almost 20 cents of value compared to FanDuel and BetOnline. And when you're EV betting, these lines move really quick. So it is important to get your bet in fast because these books will realize they need to adjust their odds. But that's essentially how I beat NBA player props and NBA in general. Like I said, it is the most profitable sport. The NBA player props are just absolutely crazy and so easy to beat. You can get access to the NBA player prop bot for $9.99 a month. It's like 30 cents a day. And this is just, I'll go back to my picket real quick and look at my tag here. SharpMoney NBA Prop Bots. This is just this week. I have a 7% ROI. The NBA just started this week, up over $367. All time, this was a little bit, we built this bot last year. So like I said, I have close to 11% ROI, close to $1,700 just using the bot. So the value is crazy good. Even if you have $5 unit sizes, the NBA player prop bot is definitely worth the purchase. You can check that out on the Sharp Money Discord. So the other thing too is if you're new to positive EV betting and some of these concepts, just take a look at my other videos on YouTube. I'll post one here. This is how to make money sports betting. So I hope you guys like this video. I'll see you next time. So here